Hello and welcome to another episode of Sausage Talk. This is our second Sausage Talk. I believe this is coming out at the end of January, the 26th or so. You know that, though, because you're listening to it on that day. Or someday later, if that's the case. You don't give a shit when it came out. It is about 6 months, Eric says almost to the day, since the last episode of Sausage Talk, which would make this episode 2.
Wow.
We just wrapped the year on regulation. I figured it was a good time to probably talk about it. And we're opening up 2025. It's our first full year as a company moving forward. And we probably have a lot to figure out. We've been having sidebar conversations left and right all over the place. And I think we all agree it'd be better if we just got in the same room and hash some stuff out. Does anybody want to start?
I'm imagining the sidebar conversations of what you guys are having, and then it's me just watching a kicking montage of martial arts films. I'm not in on the sidebar, so wherever you want to go, sounds good to me.
Well, a lot of the sidebars are related to content that, like, we have a bunch of content that we've been pitching back and forth that we could kind of all go over together. I will say some of the content we can't talk about in front of everybody. And that goes in like every direction, right? So it's like, not to usher in a new paranoid era or anything, but there are bits of content that we just can't discuss in front of all of us because some of us aren't aware of it, if that makes sense.
If you had to summarize 2024 with regulation, what was it the year of?
Absolute chaos.
It was the year that regulation was born like a phoenix falcon from the ashes of face. It was our phoenix falcon year.
I'd say born, not necessarily fully taken off yet. Like still process of, it's not as easy as they make it look on TV to fly off majestically. I feel like still flapping them wings a little bit. Still getting into the swing of things.
There's a period where you're hopping around somebody's backyard next to the tree for a couple of weeks, flying like 3 feet in the air, then a foot, and then walking for a bit, and then making it almost up to the limb, and then fall. Yeah, I think we got to the lowest rung of the limb. We're not bouncing around the yard anymore, but yeah, we definitely have gone through that. Hold on a second. Yeah, my wings stretch out now. I feel like I can fly a little bit.
A phoenix isn't real, right?
So okay, hang on. This rocks. This is great. Where do you think a phoenix lives? Is it like the werewolves of New Mexico, or where do you think a phoenix lives?
I was thinking like a sandy climate.
Sandy?
Yeah, I think maybe because of Flight of the Phoenix, the movie, that may have me thinking of sand.
I associate a phoenix with fire, and I associate fire with heat and ash and sand. So I'm right there with you. I think of a phoenix living in the desert.
There's not a lot of fires in the desert, though.
You're just not out there.
Okay.
Yeah, how often are you in the desert? When was the last time you visited the desert?
I've filmed in deserts.
You also have to think maybe there were a lot of fires in the desert, and that's why it's a desert.
Oh, it's all ash, essentially.
Yeah.
I think the desert was at one time the wettest place, and now it's the driest place. Something to think about, I guess.
I don't even know where to begin with that.
I don't think the desert was wetter than the other ocean.
The what? Yeah, so we have a company now somehow.
I think Gavin's saying it's not wetter. I think he's saying it was at best as wet.
It was as wet. Yeah, exactly.
So listen, we're talking about fucking mythical creatures and fucking desert oceans.
So it is mythical. Okay.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, guys. Seriously though, we launched regulation on May 11th, 2024. And it is now January 17th. This comes out, whatever Eric said, the 26th. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of company under our belt now. We successfully launched the product. The audience supported us overwhelmingly, the comment leavers and the regulation listeners of the world, and have helped give us this runway so that we can then build the company up and move forward. And we've been taking it in a very meticulous stair-step approach. There is an extreme, I guess, urge to want to run out of the gate as fast as we can in a direction. And I think a lot of that comes from, A, from the enthusiasm of what we're doing, but B, also we were running at full speed before Rooster Teeth shit the bed, right? And so there's a extreme urge to get back to that speed because we've already run at that speed as a podcast. And The hard thing for me has been, and I don't know about y'all, but one of the hard things for me has been knowing that that's not the way to do it. And that's not the right way to go. And that we can't flip from face to regulation 1-to-1. We have to now, as an independent entity, build the business behind regulation up so that it is healthy and that it can support us and the product going forward. And so I would say we're not running yet, but we're fucking, I got my jogging pants on.
Oh, absolutely.
Is how I feel.
100%.
I feel like I'm stretching a lot. I've been getting into shape. I've been thinking about running a lot. You know, I subscribe to a fucking a website, and so I get like daily runner's tips. You know, and I bought a new pair of shoes, and I've been wearing the jogging shorts around the house so that I get, you know, so they feel comfortable, so I'm ready. But I haven't gone outside and actually run yet. I feel like that's where we are.
You're just dressed for it and you're stretching and stuff. You're just not actually doing the...
I've eliminated every excuse to running at this point other than running, right? I feel like that's where we are as a company.
I do like that we've got pretty much to where we were content-wise before it all went tits up, but we've not got any of the bloat, and it's just a very efficient machine right now. And it's nice that we've been baby stepping our dicks off instead of just going full tilt aimlessly.
I totally agree. And listen, we're a group of guys with baby dicks already, so it makes sense that we would baby step them.
I think it's also just like we have a machine, but it's still figuring out the machine to be even more efficient. I think there's a lot of room for efficiency and just building off of what we've done so far.
So that's something that we definitely should talk about today, and I would like to talk about today is efficiency and something that we've been, and when I say we've been sidebarring and stuff, a lot of the conversations I've been having just over the weekend when we were in Cancun and then just around town is just about like figuring out how to improve the efficiency and reduce the gap between when we release content from when we record it. Sometimes, some content it doesn't matter, but there are pieces of content like we just put out the Snake Eyes unboxing, which was a great video, and I thought, Gav, you did a great job editing it. But it was 6 months or so after we recorded it, maybe 5. And I think the audience, one of the sentiments I saw was that like, oh, I'd completely forgotten about this. And that wasn't a negative comment, but I don't, I think that's something that we want to avoid when possible, like when you want to continue the bit while the bit is hot and fresh and matters. And so maybe we dive in there.
I'd be happy with 6 weeks over 6 months.
I think an interesting thing of figuring it out where you're talking about, Jeff, like us taking flight. Or I feel like it's like we've put this car together and it's like, yeah, we can go. And then we realize, oh, fuck, we didn't put in a windshield. Like there are all these sort of like peripheral parts that are needed, but like we can drive without them. And then it's realizing once you're down the street of like, oh, we only put one rear view mirror in this thing. This is not, oh boy. Okay. We got to figure that out.
How many rear view mirrors do you think a car has?
One, but I couldn't remember the name for the thing you look for the left to the right. What are those called?
The wing mirror?
Side view mirrors? Yeah.
Side view, yeah. I can remember the name of that. Gotcha. I know there's only one rear view.
I mean, that is actually pretty fitting though, because I feel like an area that we've lost out on is we have slightly less organizational people, less eyes on it. So we have a lot of stuff recorded that just slips through the spreadsheet. And it's just like, oh yeah, what happened to those Halloween GTA videos? It's just like they're just not on the list for some reason. So we end up having stuff that we completely forget about and remember later.
I've been thinking a lot about this in terms of like Let's Play. Because something that I don't know, people may not have realized when we took over Let's Play, we at no point were ever less than 2 months ahead of schedule for everything.
Correct.
And we would slide things, but it was not the discussion of like, oh, wow, this is a few months old, did not apply. And I think it's just because we had a structure there that we don't currently have that I'd like to look into implementing, where essentially we make a piece of content, we throw it on the calendar and it's there. And if we move it, or if we decide like, you know what, this is more immediate, we're going to put it here. That action is also represented in, okay, well, where are we putting this then? Because it's so easy to be like, we just did this. We're so excited about it. Let's get this out now. Oh, we're supposed to release this thing. Oh, it's from a game that's like 3 years old. It doesn't need to necessarily come. It's not like there's a rush to have gameplay of this type of thing. We'll put it out later. And then we just kind of forget. And it's finalized. It's all done. It's just in the backlog. And I think having a more visual representation. I have a few. We would use Airtable, and I'd love to be able to. It's something I've been meaning to look at a lot more within the past week, actually, but I've been sick. So my plan for this weekend specifically is to expand on that a little bit.
How are you feeling today, by the way? Are you on the mend?
Oh, I feel way better than I did. Yeah.
I could tell yesterday when during our round of recordings that you had recovered to some degree because you had a lot of energy yesterday. You were kind of bouncing off the walls. It was great.
Yeah. Listen, I crashed hard in the evening. There was a repercussion for that, but yeah, I'm feeling way better. And it's been fun. As you said, like, these are things we want to get more efficient at, but they're fun problems to have.
Yeah.
It's like we can do better at this. How can we deliver this and make it more enjoyable for the audience? And also, it's just, as people that enjoy this work, it is a thing of like, oh, I really want to solve this. Like, this is a thing I'm excited to brainstorm on.
Can I fully blame someone for this problem, by the way?
Yes.
Nobody's stopping you.
I'd like to blame Eric for this.
Yeah, let's get into it. So, looking at the videos. No, everyone else, shut up. Looking at the videos that we're releasing for the stuff that we've shot and everything. Would love to get those off of Gavin's phone into an editor so that way we can get them a little bit more timely. They have been hanging out with the one person who said they're going to edit them. And I'm not blaming you for not having time, but I am blaming you for having them. So if you really wanted to hand them over, put them in a drive, I would love to get them to an editor. We could get them all out within probably 6 weeks. And then that would solve that problem. In terms of the gameplay videos, I laid out what I wanted to do today, which was dump the backlog and just go forward with what we have for GTA and Gears. And I feel like I've really laid out what I've wanted to do with a lot of this stuff. And that's all.
Okay, wild. Well, I edit the videos as soon as they're scheduled in. I mean, if you're like, hey, let's put one out Sunday, it's edited for Sunday, it's ready.
Hey, that's great to know. I've been waiting on you because I've thought that I don't want to overload you by putting something on the schedule that you're not ready to edit.
There is a fear of overloading Gavin that permeates. Of
all the people that I work with, I am most fearful of putting more on you because I don't think that's fair to you for something that we've shot that way.
Well, that's appreciated. But every time we've needed one out, I've been clear if I have time or not, and I usually do, and they've all come out.
Yeah, and
well, I define clear.
Yeah,
I've been managing you and working with you. Not that I manage you now, but I did for a while. Working with you for a long time, and your idea of clear and other people's idea of clear, I think, might not necessarily line up perfectly.
In the Monday meetings, if we decide to put one out, I say whether I could do it or not. And
I think
every time so far.
Yeah, but yes. There's like 9 Gavin yeses, and only 2 of them are yes.
Yeah, I'll take the blame for what we have here. I have no problem with that. I've laid out what I want to do, and whether you guys want to or not, that's up to you. I have no problem with that. I am very, very, very mindful of not asking more of you because your obligations are larger than the rest of us combined outside of this podcast.
Okay. Well, yeah, you're being very fair and nice. You're being very fair and nice, and I feel bad.
Because I'm a very fair. I'm the nice one. I'm a very fair, nice person. And you want to. Yeah. No,
saying that you want to dump the backlog this morning was absolutely wild.
I don't want those videos.
When we were talking about putting in a Thursday Let's Play or whatever, we were talking about a new slot. You were like, I don't want to start the new slot until we have the resources, we have more editors, and I just want to get a big backlog before we start putting stuff out. 2 months later, delete the backlog. Sod the backlog.
Well, the backlog is deceptive, Jeff. I don't think you were here for this.
Oh, I probably wasn't.
We have a deceptive backlog.
Most of it, Andrew talked about, is mostly GTA and Gears. And so I'm saying get rid of the stuff that isn't that. Let's start fresh. And then now let's put out GTA and Gears.
I think there's merit to what Eric's saying on a case-by-case basis. I don't want to flush an entire backlog, but I remember I've seen videos slip and stuff, and like there's a Sea of Thieves video we recorded while we were still at Rooster Teeth probably that has never made it out, and I went back and looked at my footage, and my footage isn't great, and it's like, do we need to put that Sea of Thieves video out? Or can we flush that and just record a new Sea of Thieves video, right?
Yes.
If there's a problem with Wreckfest, is Wreckfest so hard to recreate that we could just make a new Wreckfest video that doesn't have footage problem? You know what I mean? Like, I think we could take it I think we could be very, I don't know how granular we want to get in this sausage talk, but we could go down the list and just make a decision video by video. carte blanching all of the GTA and all of the Gears, because I understand those are the vast majority of our back catalog. But I do feel like there's a lot of weird one-off videos that just maybe don't need to come out.
I think if the videos are just broken and jank beyond belief, like there's missing audio and missing video, then that makes sense. But I think we should look at them.
I think what's important for me to clarify in this dumping of the backlog is just because we dump the backlog doesn't mean we're suddenly recent. I just want that communicated, not to us. I know I'm not talking, just as like from an audience perspective of if we dump what we're talking about, we're still releasing GTA videos that we recorded 5 months ago. Like that's not shifting.
Correct. Totally.
It's not like a sudden we're going to be timely on certain things. There's always going to be a delay. It is part of the size of our team and the editors we have at least in this current reality of what we are. That will be a byproduct of making stuff.
Yeah. And this the video game stuff is also just a portion of what we're doing too. I don't want the pendulum to swing so far in the video game side discussion
Absolutely.
that we don't pay attention to the supplementals and the podcast and the other stuff that we're doing too, because the video game stuff's just a portion of what we're doing. But it is, I think, the piece that we need to figure out the most, because it is, next to recording the podcast itself, the easiest thing for us all to record together from home.
It also becomes of like releasing the backlog. We have a bunch of Gears of War videos and we have a bunch of GTA videos. And the GTA videos, like we can release those. That's not really a problem. We've set a precedent on the Gears of War ones that they are at a certain tier. So then it becomes a question of like, even if we edited all of those, do we consecutively release 16 Gears videos? You understand what I mean? Like there's a separate problem that needs to be solved in that scenario of what happens when one of these long form things ends up being tied to a specific content tier on our Patreon. Like what is the workaround to that? Do we remove it from that tier?
Welcome to our new show, Years of Gears, where every week we release a new Gears of War video until we've played every Gears of War video.
Like that's just another thing to think of as far as scheduling. So it's not even sometimes in the scenario in which we have it all put together and edited, it then becomes a thing of us having to be really thoughtful on what we label as what type of exclusivity. And then is there ever a scenario in which that exclusivity changes? Like my gut instinct to that is no, but at the same, like we're 17 in. So it's like, I could see people being, hey, I pay for extra medium. I don't necessarily want my video to be a Gears video every week.
It wouldn't replace something that we already do for that tier, though. I think we were talking about having a slot that's just like a series slot.
Yeah.
We have released it in that context of this is the extra medium of that month.
No, I think we keep it in the same tier, but it can be in a new slot.
I think those slots are great
Sure.
for one-offs and also for us to test stuff with the Patreon members to see what sticks and what they like. And then if they latch onto something, then we can peel it off into its own slot behind the behind the Patreon wall, whatever it's called. And do it that way, right? Like it can almost be like an incubator slot. Because I agree, if I don't give a fuck about video games, I just like the podcast and I like drafts and I like rankings and I love blindsides and that kind of stuff and the watch-alongs, then I might be a little miffed if all I get for the next 6 months is a Gears of War video in that slot, right? I don't want to do that for sure.
Yeah, I think we should still look at our Patreon supplementals as a continuing thing, and any long-term series, like if we do a weekly Gears until all those videos are out, that would be an additional.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think
it just
go ahead.
I was just going to say in the context in which we're describing, that then becomes a thing of we need another editor for that.
Yeah.
And that's just something on our end that we need to be mindful of.
Let's get one.
I think the nice thing about it is that I was looking at the numbers. We do make a little bit of money off YouTube, but it's dog shit compared to everything else, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea that we would have to release any content in a way that makes sense for YouTube is out the window to me. So if we wanted to, I'm just throwing this out there more for the audience too. We can be flexible with a lot of the stuff we do. If it's a series like Gears is a bad example because behind the paywall, but I wouldn't be opposed to releasing 5 videos in 1 week on YouTube and 2 the next week if that's the way it works out for us, if that's the way it makes the most sense for the content. You know, I don't want to monkey. I want people to know when they can come and expect content, but I also feel okay with releasing stuff whenever the fuck we want to if it makes sense for the content and not because we're not playing an algorithm game anymore.
Sure, totally. That's sort of the joy and like one of the things that is so amazing about us being supported on Patreon.
And that is something that I bring up to remind myself, because I keep forgetting that, because I did it
Sure.
the other way for so long. You got to keep, like, I'll be looking at YouTube analytics and be like, for like 20 minutes and be like, oh wait, this doesn't really matter. Why do I give a fuck? This isn't this isn't where my audience is. This isn't where they're supporting us, So just something to keep fucking, we've been doing it the other way for so long. It's just a good thing to remind yourself pretty constantly.
I'm not worried about the analytics of it or whatever. It's just that I think when we start getting off track with upload dates and everything and it gets screwy, I think it messes with the audience's expectation of when they can come and get the thing that they want on what day. And I think when we start messing with people's schedules and everything, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. I don't think we're doing the best for us. I think we're just going, we have a bunch of videos. That's why I want to kill a bunch of the backlog.
I don't want to mess with schedules either. I guess I wasn't saying like, when we talk about adding stuff, it's almost always additive. It's very rarely are we replacing. And so that's kind of why I wanted to do the weekly, and I suggested we do the Monday GTA again. I think it's also, I think people have an affection for that time slot from years ago, some of the audience, so I think it kind of appeals to them too, but it also adds a little bit of that structure. But I guess I was thinking, if we wanted to dump, we had a tranche of like 8 videos that we were holding onto for no reason. If we wanted to dump them all at once, we could. I'm not saying we should. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it. But I'm saying I guess I care less about this stuff than I did previously. I'm more interested in just putting it out in the way that makes the most sense for us and the audience and the content itself.
I think there's all sorts of solutions too, of even if it's just like, hey, these videos only live on Patreon and it's called like opening of the vault or something.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of ways we can handle it. I mean, we can dump it.
Dregs Tuesday.
Drake's Tuesday. I will say one thing that I've personally missed, and it's one of the things of like, it's the windshield thing of building the car. We used to do every month on our schedule, we would have an office day. And that sometimes would be live action stuff, but a lot of the times it was remote, and it would end up being like drafts, and it would be a day every month where we recorded like 4 or 5 drafts in a day. And I really miss having that cadence of supplemental on the schedule. And I wanted to float by you guys because we have a Thursday Let's Play day where we record most of our stuff in that time frame. I'd love like a Friday, like draft day, or just supplemental, like audio supplemental day to focus on the other stuff.
I think that's a great idea. I'm right there with you, Andrew. I missed that as well. And there was like one of my favorite days ever recording was when we recorded, I don't remember what all 3 were, but we did it was the day we did the mall draft, and we just went back to back to back, and every draft felt so different and had totally different energy. And it was just like, it just felt like really accomplished knocking them all out in the same day. And I like doing that.
I think that was a great format for recording, but we also need to be careful not to just shit stuff out in that slot if we can't. If there's nothing planned, I feel like we can easily not do the recording. We don't have to quickly be like, oh, come up with something.
I totally agree, but I feel like we're in a point right now with like drafts and stuff where we have like 60 that we're like, yeah, that sounds great. We should do that. And then we just don't have that built-in mechanism right now of actually doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure that won't happen for a while. But if it's like Thursday evening, we're like, oh, what should we do tomorrow? I feel like if it's not forced, it's a lot better.
Yeah,
totally. And I think that's the idea of, I mean, the flexibility. If we don't have anything to record, we don't need to record. We cancel it. But we also have the Sheets document that Eric created and that I populated over the holiday. And it's like 28 ideas in it now, too, that it's like if we're ever hurting for something to do, we could look at that. And there's a ton of stuff that we've identified that we really want to do at some point that we just haven't made it through yet.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
I think we are at a point where we could have a new editor dedicated to a specific series. Like you could potentially just have a GTA editor, and whenever he's finished or she's finished, start downloading the next one, and there'll always just be one of those ready to go, or maybe with Gears or something.
That's sort of what I have going right now.
Do you have a new person?
Not a new person. It's just they are rotational. Like they've got a lot of other stuff going on. So I like to be able to. It's somebody we worked with at Let's Play, named Sean. They've done a majority of our GTA 5 stuff, just like coincidentally. And I recently reached out to them like late last week saying, hey, we have a bunch of these GTA videos. It'd be awesome if you could just like focus in on these for us and just hammer them out so we could start releasing them with some more regular cadence.
That's something I don't think we've actually ever talked about within our own company, is that you handle all of the post interaction.
Yeah.
And he does great.
Thanks, Nick.
No, it's for real. It's so efficient. It's so helpful and efficient.
Yeah,
like,
Nick is absolutely right. You're very, very good at it.
Like from
thank you.
finding the people to like making the intro to getting them the footage and then delivering us the edited video. You just do it all.
And here's the other thing. Making sure they get paid, seeing it through on the back end, making sure that everything is done in like an administrative way. Andrew's taking care of all that stuff for like this video game post stuff. It's fantastic.
And I don't know how you're so competent at that when you can barely start a game lobby.
Oh man.
Or the status of your computer altogether.
Yes.
Yeah, the fact that you do that with your pile of shit in there, unbelievable.
Well, we have a Q&A that, you know, part of our Patreon membership thing is that Falcons, I believe, can leave questions to be answered during Sausage Talks. I reset my computer at like 5 a.m. multiple times because I'm like, I need to be able to write these down and I don't need it to freeze. Like my runway for my Mac is like, if it's chunking, we need 6 hours to get this loaded.
Is it squinkle chunking?
As soon as we're done this recording, I'm heading to see if I can get some.
I'm gonna go get some too. I just remembered.
It's on my schedule.
You said chunk.
I think a thing that we can afford now too is, and Nick needs this also, is we just new machines so we can keep up with what we need to do. Because that's not something we were able to do when we were at the last company. Like that was, you know, the budget and what we were doing or whatever. There was no hope for that. But we have a company where, and I don't know if people know how this stuff works or whatever, where it is like when you get this money, X amount needs to be spent. So that way, like, it's not taxed to hell and everything. Like that's the point of having a bank account with like this company. And so when we look at this stuff, we need to buy machines for you guys, especially you. But before we do that, we definitely need to see if Gavin can figure out your tech support needs. Which I want to do desperately.
Oh, it'll be so funny. Not at all. Like I don't mean this in a disparaging way for where we were working previously, but when I just sort of ended up as the head of Let's Play for that. And we had an issue where Eric and Nick were on last generation consoles.
Yeah, we were.
And it would cause some problems.
Yeah, it did.
And it was a thing of vocalizing of, hey, it would be really nice to buy some current gen systems that cost like $300. And that not being a thing that was immediate. That are like, we needed to build a justifiable case as to why we needed this. And it was just a thing of like, oh God, like this is a $600 purchase for the Let's Play channel.
Almost
this is
all of the equipment
insane.
I've had over the last 6 years, I've bought personally because I just couldn't deal with trying to get it purchased through the company.
Oh my God, same.
Yeah.
Especially if it's stuff I can find use for in my other line of work. I just went ahead and just pay for stuff myself because going through all that shit. I also find it funny that Andrew is our person who handles all the post. I like that he doesn't watch or proof anything though.
That's your job.
As soon as it's delivered, it's back on us. And because you hate listening to the stuff we're in, right? Or you're in.
I just think I'm such a bad, like I know sort of what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. I am so bad at determining if a thing is bad or good. And the way that like you have such a clear editor's vision of like how things should move. I don't know how to say this in any other way, but I am way too content with things being boring. Like my tolerance for boring is too high.
I feel the same way.
And I just don't
I'm so fine
have
with it.
like,
I'm with you.
like I'll watch it and I'll go like, oh, this is nice. Like this is, we're just hanging out. It's kind of a vibe. It has a feel. And then you will, Gavin, be with like a scalpel and then it'll be so much better, whatever your version is after it's gone through those notes that I just go, I have no value here. I don't know how to do
Andrew,
this.
you've totally, I've never been able to articulate how I feel when I get stuff back for notes where I watch it and I go, yes, it's fine. We're hanging out. We're doing this. Like I have,
we're
have
having-
length to it. I don't give a shit. And then Gavin comes in and to say that he makes it 10 times better is an understatement probably because it is always better after a round of Gavin notes. Always.
I try and keep it at no more than like 2 rounds though. Like very rarely am I watching the second or third version of anything, but I feel like editing, because I've probably edited 1,000 videos in my life. I feel like that's been the most helpful thing for me in terms of then turning around and creating the content. At least just having something in the back of my mind where I'm like, that'll be fine because of this in the edit, blah, blah, blah. I feel like those moments are helpful when I'm actually recording.
Totally. And it shows.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I'm making stuff, it's more of like, does this feel good in the moment? I'm sure we'll have enough to make something of it, but I don't have any, or I don't think I ever will. I think if I focus on editing the rest of my life, I would never have as clear of a vision as you do in terms of like what is actually needed for this thing to be the best version of itself.
Interesting.
It is a very impressive skill that you have.
I feel like most of my notes though are, hey, we're talking about this, cut to it. Or if I remember from my own footage, sometimes I'm like, that bit where Eric fell off the roof, way funnier from this other person's angle than his own angle. Like a lot of the stuff in gameplay,
Sure.
It looks a lot funnier from another viewpoint than your own, especially if you get killed.
I feel like as a rule, we try to give editor those notes in the content when it happens. Like, oh, that looks so much better from my angle. Cut to that, Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we try to help the editors out in that regard too.
My favorite example of this is, I was in a majority of the Let's Play stuff we did at Rooster Teeth. There was one video I wasn't where Jeff and Gavin did a bum bait. And I was like, this is great. Like, I get to just watch this as a fan of this content. This is, oh man, what a time. And so I watched it and I was like, that was great. No notes. And then Gavin came in and he had all these notes of like what should be trimmed and where. And then I watched his take of it and went, oh no, this is great. Like, this is so much better in a way that I would have even known. Like, I had no concept that there was better to be
Yeah,
had.
I think I remember that there was like a game that ended early because everyone dropped out that I just cut entirely. And then there was like a 15-second silent gap as we were waiting between games. And I was just like, we could just lose stuff like that because I feel like if people have these videos on in the background, sometimes they'll wonder if they just stop playing and we could just cut those moments.
Yes.
I had something kind of like that happen at Rooster Teeth once when I was the creative director, and I proofed a trailer for a show that was coming out, and I had like 3 notes, but otherwise I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. And then Jordan got a hold of it, and the notes came back. It was like a novel of notes of why this was a bad trailer. And I thought, man, I really like that trailer. And then I read all of his notes and I went like, I hate that fucking trailer. He's totally right. And you realize that I just felt so stupid in that moment. Like, why did I not see all these 11 things that he saw,
I mean, it's all different perspectives, isn't it?
Exactly. I think that's why we work so well too, because I think we're willing to give the notes if we need to or whatever, or know where we're strong and where we're not to like do that stuff. I could never hope to give the notes that Gavin gives because I just go, I never even thought about that. Like Andrew's saying, like, I just don't, I'm not wired that way. Like, that's just not where my brain is. And I don't know. It's pretty special to see, but then Gavin will come in and he's like, hey, let's do this video where I just edited like by yourself. You just went, I'm going to edit this 25-minute video of us playing GTA, and it's so cinematic. And it was like, this is an Xbox 360 game, and this looks like fucking crazy. It's like, it's gorgeous. And it's like, I never would have thought to make something that looks like this. I've never had a love for like the edit aspect. Like, you make a movie, you make it 3 times. You're making it in pre, you're making it like in production, you're making it in post. I don't have the love for post. Gavin is so good at it. So good at it. It's great.
Yeah, a few years ago, I learned how to use the Rockstar editor, like keyframing camera angles and just making like little cinematic things. And then I was never able to use it in content. I did actually record a bunch of game replays for Achievement Hunter, but I never got the go ahead to make it into a video that we all did. But now that's something I like about this format, though, is that I can just make stuff and try it with you guys and see if it works. And everyone's kind of okay with that experimental style.
Yes, 100%.
Hell yeah.
I think it is such I don't know the word advantageous or just, it is a thing I appreciate so much about all of you, that everyone has an absolute willingness to try whatever.
Yes.
And it doesn't necessarily mean it will work, but just like not having that hurdle of trying to just get the thing made. Like, we can make the thing and then learn if it's good after the fact, and we can move on.
Yeah.
It is so nice.
Because even if we burn an hour of all our time, it's 5 hours spent. But I feel like a lot of the time, even if it's not something we would put out or not something that works in this iteration, we can make something from it or build on it. And it just wasn't a waste of time.
Yes.
It is so, look, God, let me tell you, man, it is, you talk about how nice that is. Given my previous role in the company, that was the thing that I probably had to learn to get the best at, that I didn't enjoy doing at all, which you would assume that because I was a founder that they would make everything I wanted to make. But that's not how that shit works at all. In some ways, I think that it works the opposite of that at some point. But you have to get really good at selling an idea to people. When you have an idea, I had to get really good at selling it to the Achievement Hunter guys and getting them on board, and then selling it to whoever management was at the time and getting them on board to give us money. And you're having to do one sheets and you're having to do pitch docs and you're doing presentations. And I hated every second of it. But luckily, I got good enough at it that we were able to get most of our stuff made. But the idea that we don't have to do that now, that one sheet doesn't have to get generated for us to make something, you have like that is so much of my behind the scenes Rooster Teeth life that nobody, even most of y'all, maybe Eric some, never saw. You know, was just the fucking work I had to get in. I had to put into cajoling people to give us enough money to do something or to say yes. Or to even get the fucking cast to buy in because nobody wanted to do anything at some point, you know? Yeah. It was like constant. I felt like a salesman 24 hours a day at Rooster Teeth.
I think we talked about this before. Maybe it was like during a lunch or something. I had no idea that that's how you guys operated. Like, I never, you know, it's not like I was watching a ton of Achievement Hunter or anything, but I didn't know that people were like saying no to ideas. And this was, I don't know, like a year into us doing like Let's Play and stuff. And they're like, yeah, it was so hard to pitch this to this person or this person didn't want to do that. And it's like, what? The video games? People said no to the video games? And it's like, I don't have that. I have games that I want to play, but when you guys go, let's play web fishing, it's not like I'm going to go, no, I don't want to play web fishing. Like, what?
Sometimes it was because of money and stuff, but a lot of times it wasn't. But like Hardcore Monopoly was a show we did that everybody loved. We did it for 2 seasons. The company couldn't get enough of it. The audience couldn't get enough of it. It was a huge driver for First and all that stuff. But before that, I spent 4 fucking years pitching that show over and over and over again and getting told no. And then trying again in a couple months, or, hey, we got a new tranche of money. Let's try again. Or, you know, our corporate goals have restructured, so maybe it fits in. It took me 4 years to get that made, and then you get it made, and they're like, "Cool, we want more of it. What hardcore everything?" And you're like, "God, you fucking assholes!" I just love that's that I don't have to live in that world.
I mean, do you remember that? That's when I think we did our first sausage talk. That was the thing I said about taking over Let's Play. Of us being mindful or worrying about like, we're going to do this and all they're going to ask for is this thing. And it's going to take focus away from the podcast. And like a note that I'm seeing from people online is like, yeah, I just really like the podcast. I wish they wouldn't talk so much about the Let's Plays, or I wish, you know, it wasn't such a focus or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's the thing I was afraid of. And we're more controlled for it and everything. And I don't know. It's just still something to be mindful of, I suppose.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
That's sort of where I think having that like Friday or whatever supplemental slot, just having something regular for that, I think would be nice. Because it's hard, you know, like we've had so much fun with video game stuff, but if you looked at the history of our show, it is incredibly new. Like in the terms of like, we went a long time without touching anything video game related, and it's been such a fun thing to explore. And obviously there's that history with Achievement Hunter, but it's wanting to like be mindful of, we really started being audio centric, and let's not forget to develop that.
Yeah, I think our main podcast is the main focus and always will be. And even though we play video games for work, we kind of always did that. Like Andrew and I used to play all the time outside of work before we were recording them. So it's not like we're like using up resources that we would be putting into the podcast. But I do think we can be better about not going over moments from Let's Plays we just filmed in the middle of a regulation.
It's just so much of what we do is enthusiasm based, but I think it's good to keep it in check. And you know, I'll be honest, I love doing the video game stuff, and it's reignited my love of video games. And I'd be scared to see how many hours of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 I have in me right now going for these Dark Matter skins. I just hit my 5th prestige yesterday. Wow. Hey, I'm getting there. But I've never had as much fun playing a video game with you guys as I have doing a draft with you guys. So just so the audience knows, like I love the video game stuff. It's like low-hanging fruit. It's easy to do. It's great. But when we're cranking and arguing about hot dog and ice cream pairings, that to me is like Shangri-La. That's my Garden of Eden, personally.
It's a lot funnier to see dogs and cream draft on the calendar too.
Yeah, it is. That's said, like, you know, that's pure creative expression, and it doesn't get any better than that, I think, personally.
And we should say that Andrew obviously handling all of the video game post, but pretty much it's just Nick doing the audio post.
Oh yeah.
You just take care of it.
It's pretty simple. Well, the upside to that is I don't have to worry about the post on the other side of stuff. The only thing I'm really doing is just helping gathering. We use a backup system that's an add-on to Discord. It's called Craig, and he automatically records. It's not the best quality, but it's still better quality than, say, not having audio at all. So after a recording is over, I'll go back and pull those and add them to the folder where we've uploaded everything, and that's kind of like the extent of where I touch any and all of the gaming stuff. But all the audio stuff is just simple because it's the podcast and it's the drafts and it's all the other things, and it's weekly, so it's easy to track in that sense. And I still have the Craig backups if I need them. We rarely need to use them, but they're there just in case. And it's there are weeks where it's obviously busier than others. Someone's out of town, we have a holiday or something coming up or whatever, and we've recorded multiple like back to back. Suddenly it becomes like, oh, where the hell is this thing? But it's been really simple and easy to keep track of everything now that I don't edit 100 podcasts.
But I was going to say, like, I run 2 companies with you, and you are the busiest, I think, in both. Like, you're just constantly on something, doing something, on to the next edit. Here's more stuff. Here's another proof. Hey, can we get this up on this day? Like, I think and you have a very young kid. And you are insanely busy. You're insanely busy. It's crazy.
Well, it's funny because it's like the balance of the back and forth is like, I don't want either company to feel like they're not being prioritized. So I prioritize both, like certain days of the week, like focusing on an edit. And if we have a recording or something come up, I can push that edit back. And it's just kind of finding that balance. And obviously, the young kiddo is also a bit of a, like last week, Eric was like, we were going to record something at a set time. We're like, we're all ready. Let's do this. And I was like, nah, I dropped off my kid. I had to go to the car shop. And, oh, the kid has a doctor's appointment. Oh, the kid has another doctor's appointment. It's just, so it's like finding that balance. And Jeff probably knows better than most.
It's been funny jokes on our end, though. We've all appreciated it.
Yeah, in the moment they're not as funny to me, but afterwards I love
them. Do you feel good about that, Nick? Like, do you feel like you're in a good place? Is there anything we could do to lessen the load to make your life easier? Because I think it's good. It's a good time for a check-in because you are balancing these 2 companies. And like, for instance, if you need us to, Gavin and I will go over there tonight and burn 100% ETH to the ground. Like, we're happy to do that.
Why did we show you the office? No, I think I'm in a pretty good spot. I think the only times where we could potentially run into things, but we know ahead of time usually, is just when we have a supplemental that is one of the audio ones, in addition to like, say, a busy recording week for us or a busy recording week for 100% ETH. So it's probably just up to me to be like, hey, do you mind if we reach out to someone else? And we have actually had a couple of folks that we reached out to help us with a couple edits. Dennis, who actually edited Face in several instances, probably in between when I was unavailable and when Kelly was unavailable to edit the original run of the show. And he would step in and do that. So he's been able to help us with a few things. He actually put together all the advent calendar stuff since that had a video component as well. So he's been very helpful.
It is weird, actually, that you mentioned that because I was listening to an audio, I think it was an actual regulation episode.
It was.
And I was like, someone else edited this, didn't they? I could just tell from listening.
It was snappier.
It was a little bit snappy. There was less pauses.
Did you like it better? Do we like Dennis better than Nick? Hey, Nick, plug your ears for a second. Earmuffs.
Okay, hold on.
I feel like Nick edits us the best.
I do too. He is us.
He's us.
Aw. I put it back on. Thank you.
I feel like we kind of like have discussed kind of scheduling stuff. Is there anything related to like the schedule that we want to touch on that we haven't?
Well, there's going to be a period at some point where I think we talk about new ideas, and some of the new ideas would be related to altering the schedule. So I don't know if that's a natural segue or we want to just hold off on that.
I'd love to hear about new ideas.
Why don't we do real quick, just run through merch? And I don't think it needs to be a long conversation, but just kind of catch people up to where we are, because merch is the thing that Face did very well and that regulation has in its infancy right now. And we're definitely like, merch is one of the reasons I feel like I'm not jogging yet, but we're getting close. We did the big run. What we did in 2024 was we created the structure. We found a partner that looked good, that we wanted to give a shot to, that we thought maybe we could trust, that worked with some people that used to work at Rooster Teeth that we had a lot of respect for. And we did essentially 2 tests through that company to make sure that the website works, the company is able to handle the volume. As a matter of fact, that company did a fucking, no shade to our previous fulfillment house at Rooster Teeth, but the new company handled those Gerplers better than any Gerpler drop we've ever had.
Incredible.
At Rooster Teeth.
I agree.
They were so quick and efficient and on it. And their response to us was, that was great. We want more, which I fucking love to hear, right? And so I think we all feel now in 2025 really good about the partnership we have with our fulfillment company and the pipeline that we have developed. And now we want to turn the nozzle on the hose a little bit more. Obviously, we have more Gerplers coming in February and Kuzlers as well. We've talked about that. But we also have some t-shirt related merchandise coming up in the few months. We were in the lab. Have we talked about this on episode?
Not really. It's something that we kind of like poked around, but I don't think we like talked about it because we didn't know if it could be like made.
Yeah.
But it can be made. So
we should probably talk about it on the main podcast then. But we have an innovative t-shirt idea that we're going to launch hopefully in the next few months. And that I think is going to revolutionize casual dress. You're going to be able to get a lot more mileage out of your clothing than you used to. And we're pretty excited about that. But that's kind of where we are is now that we feel really good and we feel like we have a solid foundation, we want to start making more merch and doing it more in the way that we did with Face, which is where the merch is very often a piece of the bit or a part of the bit or the reason for the bit or the byproduct of the bit, but it's somehow of the content and it's not just a logo slap. And that was a scary thing for us because we didn't know that we'd be able to get that kind of service again outside of RT. That's a tremendous boutique service we received in the company.
I think a thing that, like, we released the Gerplers and there were 4,000 and it sold out so fast and everything. And people are like, why didn't you just do more? And it's like, we've never done anything like this as just 5 guys. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know if this is we could have gotten 4,000 and the whole thing could have tanked and we could have sold none because of a issue with Shopify. Like, there could have been so many things that went wrong. We had to test in like a bunch of different ways. That's why we put the shirt out. Like, we're baby stepping into this thing, not because I think with like content, we can be a little bit more experimental. I don't want to be experimental with your money. This is why we don't do pre-orders. It's why we do merch like the way that we're doing it and we're slow rolling it. We're figuring it out now is because when it's your money parting from you, I don't want that to be an issue. I want you to be thrilled with the thing that you got and the thing that you bought and there were no problems and it was super smooth. That's what I'm hoping for every time we're putting stuff out. And now I feel really confident working with this company and what we're doing. And I am so excited for like mid-February with these new Gerplers.
Can you imagine, like, my nightmare, we always talked about, like, with the ordering and stuff and how many to order, but my real nightmare was, what if we sell 4,000 Gerplers in 10 minutes and the company can't ship them because they're overloaded and it breaks their system and they're having to hire seasonal help to come in. And now, instead of having 4,000 people disappointed because they didn't get a Gerpler, we have 4,000 people disappointed because they paid money for a Gerpler that they didn't get, which is way worse to me, you know?
Yep. So, appreciate everyone being patient with us. I feel like, especially for this drop or whatever, there were people that were disappointed they didn't get it. And I totally understand. I want the things that I want when I want them as well. But I really appreciate people being patient and understanding that we are just 5 guys trying a new thing with a company that is a new company that we hadn't worked with before, ever. Like, we worked with Natalie and we worked with Tony, but I don't know any of these other people. And it was really positive. It was a super positive thing that went really well. And I think now we're really excited to like ramp up. I think this year is going to be the year of like really cool merch for us.
Yeah, I think so too. But that's merch in a nutshell. I feel like we've talked ad nauseum about it in previous sausage talks, but we're in a really good place. We've built a good foundation and we're excited to start taking more swings.
We'll announce the Gerplers soon in like an actual episode also, but it'll be mid-February, so don't worry about it.
In addition, I think with moving forward and looking forward for new stuff, I think we're also very open to the idea of looking at the back catalog for merch that people really identified with or like that they weren't able to get more of. Like, we could sell more scrumping signs or protected by Falcon signs if that was a thing that people wanted, like that, because that stuff is in the vault doesn't mean the vault stays shut or has to stay shut.
Important to note that we have the rights to all those things and we can make them as we see fit.
We can look in both directions with merch.
We talked about it the other day, and it was the Sloppa clocks or whatever, and we just went, that thing was so good and it didn't sell. That's the thing I'm worried about.
It was just us being bummed to death about that Sloppa clock.
God, I love it too, because we all talked about how we have it hanging in our houses. And it was like,
I'm looking at it right now.
Me too. It's right behind me. It's great. I love that thing. It's great. Fantastic. Okay, Andrew, do you have some Falcon questions, or is there anything else you guys want to get at?
I sure do. Yeah. Is there anything else we want to touch on before I feel like we wrap on questions?
I think we go to questions and we kind of just see where it goes, because I have a feeling there's going to be more that we're going to want to talk about, and this is really going to spark us in a direction. I
do think we don't have to now. We can do it after questions, but I do think, Eric, we should pitch Wheel of Decades at some point in this.
Yeah. Hey guys, stay tuned through questions, because at the end of questions, we're pitching Wheel of Decades.
And are we Nostradamus?
I am so excited to learn what both those are. I pulled some questions. We should make time to do a sausage talk that are just questions. We have so many of them that are good. These are just some that I pulled. If your question is not asked here, don't worry. I have it saved. It's just these are ones that I pulled for this specific recording. First one comes from Mr. Fedora Mustache. Would the guys ever retry old content /bets /alphabet 100% chocolate, a successful beanhole, bobbing for Bovril? I was curious if you guys had any bets that you felt like didn't deliver in the past, or that you'd have any interest in revisiting. I thought that was an interesting question. Nothing came to mind for me personally.
I want Eric to drink the Bovril.
Did we talk about that in Mexico? And you're like, oh, have you ever had that? And I'm like, no. And you're like, you should try it. No.
I'd like to see.
Nick wants it. Yeah, Nick wants to try and see. That's the thing.
Fun.
Nick wants it. Okay, that's what we should do. Me and Nick will try it together.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
It used to be that the food stuff was typically done by Jeff, Andrew, and myself.
Yes.
Before you two other guys became a bigger part. And maybe there's like a little backlog gauntlet of disgusting food that you should go through.
I will say, as a person who's had Bovril two ways, stateside and overseas, the best way to experience Bovril for the first time would probably be in England itself. Maybe we should make a trip over to England just for you guys to drink Bovril.
Watch some footy.
Yeah, we could do that too.
Ooh, okay.
You just increased the price of this bit.
Yeah, no kidding. I thought it was going to be $1, and it's way more than $1 now.
1,001.
I think the stuff that we need to pay off is the face-off stuff.
Yes.
Like I think we need to do. We'll figure it out. We don't have to get into it here or whatever. We need to do the Deputy Indiana thing. We have to figure out. Billboard is a pretty loose term, I think, at this point, because we don't have the buying power of Warner Brothers. But I think Nick needs to wear these boots, and we'll figure that out at a later date, too.
And we have to physically visit Deputy Indiana and at least put a stick with a sign on it in the ground or something.
Do you think there's a guy in Indiana or Deputy Indiana called Bill? And it could just be Bill's board, and he just holds it sometimes?
He holds it sometimes. This is Bill's board that he occasionally holds.
You know what?
I had the exact same thought. Yeah. I completely agree with you, Gavin.
What was the population?
It's less than 10,000.
It was like 800.
Yeah, very, 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 very low.
There's got to be a Bill. In 800 people, there's got to be a Bill.
1 in 800 name.
In Indiana, yeah, I guarantee you. There's probably 10 Bills.
Well, it does say Deputy Indiana, population 19.
Whoa.
I thought it was like 800 when we looked up last time.
Yeah,
no, maybe they had a bad run of COVID or something.
The census in 2010 was 86. In 2022, population of 19.
That might be a stretch for a Bill. It's possible, though.
It might be.
Maybe we'll just stick it on Bill's grave.
Oh, my God.
Jesus.
I thought we got past the grave thing with you.
He's dead. He doesn't care. He's in heaven.
Well, maybe.
Or hell.
Yeah.
To be determined.
But if he's in hell, fuck him.
Next question comes from Josh Thomas. What have been some of the crew's favorite moments since the rebrand? Any like specific thing jump out to you guys as like, man, this is great. I think the streams for me have been something where it's like
those are fun.
Doing a make way thing and then it being 505 or being yelled at for an hour in Pico Park. And then
That's one bit. There was one bit in Pico Park where I was behind Eric and he had to jump over a thing and I just kept ramming into the back of him. And he just goes, give me space, dipshit. And then I give him space, I back off and he runs straight into the enemy.
No, I don't remember that.
I really enjoyed Sloppy Bingo on Halloween.
Oh, that was so much fun.
That was a great one.
Yeah, also the night we watched Eric's wrestling show together with the audience, we did the watch
Falcon
along.
event.
That was so great. I appreciated that so much. That meant so much to me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of
that
course.
that
Of course,
really,
man.
that really was great.
We had a blast doing it.
I think it's not even like a moment that sticks out to me. It's the regular schedule that we have that I look forward to.
Mhm.
Like before we recorded this today, I was sitting in the Discord for half an hour just going like, oh, see if anyone's early. Like I love just being able to make the time to do this stuff
Yes.
where we didn't have the time for it previously. Now it's like a lot of gameplays, a lot of other stuff, and it's fun. It's like a lot of fun to do, and I love doing it. I never don't look forward to getting together to do this stuff.
Yeah, that's such a great call. I had a very similar experience where I guess last week I was super sick and I was going to miss our Monday sync, but I was awake. I was like, I can't talk, but I'll just listen so I can keep in the loop on like what this week looks like. And that was the highlight of my week that week. And I spent the rest of the week going like, just having that like 30 minutes to hang out with you guys. It was just so much fun. How lucky I am that I get to have that be part of my work. That like the highlight of my week to that point from just like happiness and like entertainment was a Monday sync meeting. That's crazy. That's an incredibly privileged position to be in that I'm incredibly thankful for.
I feel the same way. I really like cherish all the time that we get to just chat and record and do work. And even in the time in between, I'm really excited to make stuff and then just show it to you guys, like we did with the GTA highlights. And I went and made that little Gerpler promo. I was just so excited to show you after I was done making it.
Oh, it's so cool.
I think the moment I realize when we've gone, and this is a poor example, but it's the only one that's in my head at the moment because I just saw it again. But realizing when we've gone from like Falcon to Falcon, where you just like you're in a moment and something is interesting, or like hot dog's a great example. A hot dog was a throwaway question. It wasn't a question. A hot dog was my answer to a question I was asking you guys. And you go from like to realize when you've gone from like that moment where it's just like the dumbest little thing, or you're like, is that a fucking falcon that just walked by the pool? And then the next thing you know, you're sold out of merch, you know?
Sure.
Or there's a hot dog count on the website and everybody's, Reddit's awash with people tracking their hot dogs. And you're like,
man.
It's so weird when you have that. There's like a moment when you realize, oh, that little thing became this big thing because you've been along for the ride the whole time, so it feels quite natural to you. But when at some point you naturally take a step back and then you see it for like, how did that dumb thing turn into this big thing? That's a really cool feeling, and I felt that a lot this year.
It's weird to see like quite a heated or quite a serious discussion over such a dumb thing sometimes as well. Like,
Absolutely.
Like, what counts as a hot dog?
Yeah.
I love it so much.
And I get it in person a lot. That's a question people like to ask me when they run into me. And I got to be like, there's a spirit to it.
We were talking the other day about how exciting it is to run into regulation listeners in real life. It's that so many of them are right up to date on the podcast. They'll talk to you about something that came out yesterday. And because it's still fresh in my mind, I'm like, yeah, can you believe it? Like, what a bunch of bullshit. Immediately get into it.
It is awesome because you feel like you have something like you can talk about now, right? Like it's really cool. It really is cool when somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, Jeff, it's so nice to see you. I loved Red versus Blue and I watched it every day in middle school. You meant a lot to me." And you go, "Thanks, man. I really appreciate that." And then you move on with your day. But then somebody comes up to you and you go, "I really like what you did yesterday." You're like, "Fucking awesome."
Yeah, it's great.
Next question is from Paul Davenport. Any update on the Eric and or Nick plays Halo 2? Yasso, Hasso, Nasso, Lasso. That was the thing we talked about that I'm very excited as a possibility. Doesn't even have to be Halo 2. Just Eric's first experiences with some of these games being in a Lasso format, I think is so funny.
Don't make it Halo 2. That's cruel.
It couldn't be Halo 2 because it's 2-player.
Is it?
It's a 2-player, but it's also the hardest,
That's
most
me and Gavin.
unforgiving.
Yeah, I think that's mine and Nick's series.
Yeah. That could finally be Gavin and Nick's show.
I'd watch it.
I hope we still get along at the end.
It's hell.
What's a lasso that we do then? Like, I don't know anything about this.
Reach was a good lasso, right? Three or reach.
Reach works.
3'd be doable, probably.
3 and reach are great. There's also like the endurance-based stuff in ODST that we could do. Like we could try and get that 2-hour
Yeah, that'd be
achievement.
fun.
Remember that one?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
The Vidmaster.
Vidmaster Challenge. There's a few of those, right?
Yes.
Ooh.
Next question comes from Christopher Shanks. Have you guys thought of doing a cassette release of an episode since you've done the vinyl? Cassettes more popping up now in like a weird way. Also, I don't know a lot about cassettes, but theoretically, couldn't we make that ourselves as opposed to pressing a vinyl?
Like
Yeah.
record a cassette in real time, one at a time.
That's what I'm saying. Like, couldn't we theoretically do that? Like, we can't press a vinyl, but we could technically make a shitty cassette.
Yeah, we could. It
Yeah,
would
we
take like
could.
9 years to make 10,000 of them, probably.
Who's we?
Who is we?
Oh yeah, who is we?
Well, Nick's the audio guy.
It's true.
I mean, I feel like we'd be doing it just to do it, right?
Dude,
I don't
I
know.
do not feel a pull to do cassette anything. And then also in terms of like what merch capabilities I guess we have and what we could do.
Sure.
I don't know. Are cassettes going to bang? I don't really, we'd have to do like so limited.
Andrew and Nick, I did pitch Gavin and Eric on an idea for a vinyl over the weekend that I don't think they're on board for, but maybe you guys would be
No,
excited about
absolutely not on board for it. No, absolutely not.
it. We were talking about what different things to do with the wheel. One of the funny ideas we came up with is a pocket wheel of decisions. You spin it, and then it like whatever it lands on, it's kind of like the Magic 8-Ball, but you just carry it around in your pocket, and whenever you want to make a decision, you spin the wheel, and then it tells you like half a car or no or do it tomorrow. But what if we recorded similarly? What if people wanted to glean insights from the wheel? What if we created a vinyl that was the wheel, and then every song on the vinyl is like an 8-second song, 8-second track, and it's just 55 minutes of going, yes, 11. Do it Wednesday. And then you just, wherever you turn the record on, wherever you drop the wheel and whatever you hear, that's your answer to your question.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, all we got to do is convince Nick.
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
It'd have to be two-sided though, because one of the things would have to be flipped to the other side.
Yeah, go to other flip. Yeah,
Go to other wheel.
Yeah.
go to other wheel. Yeah, 100%.
Now, I thought you were about to pitch the choose your own adventure vinyls, which I'm not on board for that. This is fine. I'm fine with one vinyl where you needle drop.
I feel like the choose your own adventure pitch kind of morphed into this by the end. You guys steered me away from the choose your own adventure thing, and you were right. I think this is a better version.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with this idea. If we want one vinyl of for an hour, we just record things that.
We'll just record responses.
To be fair, these are not Andrew's 20,000 things. These
No.
are responses
Correct.
to a wheel. These would be wheel items.
Next question comes from William McLaughlin. How difficult is it to manage production/release cycles given the spontaneous nature of the group? I.e., a person has a good idea in an episode or other video. What's the scheduling like for getting that content created and released before everyone forgets? I think that's a thing we're working on.
It took us 3 months to fucking record this episode of Sausage Talk.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
So I started pushing it in early November.
It shifts if there's a thing that you really want to push off the ground. Like for me, the advent calendar was something I really wanted us to do. And so all of my focus was on that. So the premise of like trying to get anything else was just not viable. And it'll be interesting to see with you guys if there are things like that with the advent calendar for you where you kind of view as like a bigger thing, just trying to push it to get made.
I feel like every once in a while there's an idea that's just so good everybody is equally invested and
Yes.
on board, and then it just gets pushed to the top and just
Yeah.
gets made as quickly as possible.
Next question comes from Taylor Bolton. Would love to know whether you find it easier to market regulation with the name change, like more search hits, viewers, etc. Now that you're not stuck behind the SEO minefield that was face.
I feel like just not having asterisks is a huge improvement when it comes to search.
Just being able to say the show name is nice, just casually.
I've had a lot of people come up to me, not maybe not a lot, but I've had a few people come up to me in person and thank me for changing it, or thank us for changing it to a name that they can tell their family about.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I've appreciated it.
Like, yeah.
It's been nice.
I don't know. What do you think, Eric? I mean, we don't really do any marketing.
We definitely don't. So like in terms of like what the marketing is, it's like there's not much of a difference, but it's easier to sell ads. It's easier to get to work with other companies that are like they're more apt to look at our numbers and then they see the name and they don't think twice about it.
Mhm.
Where before you look at the numbers, you see the name and you go, we can't advertise on that. And so it's a move on from there. But I think it's a way better. I think Regulation Podcast is a way better name than Face ever was.
I also like that we verbicized it, so it still lives on when we
Yes.
face ourselves,
Yes.
even in
Absolutely.
regulation.
Yeah. I think there's still nuggets of that stuff. I just think we were at a company that never named anything well. So the first thing we did was pick a good name for something and then, shot into the stratosphere. So I feel good about it.
Tying into sort of the next question from Stockholm Child Kicker. Were there any other potential names going around during the rebrand? Was calling it Andrew ever on the table again? I don't think it was ever really on the
No.
table to begin with. And I don't think we had any other.
Well, you came up with this podcast name
I
Yeah.
did.
years before we used it,
You
That
pitched
is
it to
true.
us, and in that moment, we all fell in love with it.
so we always knew that was going to eventually be the name of the podcast.
I mean, it's nice that is such a clean experience, but it would have been if there were like sessions of us trying to pitch a name, that would have been so chaotic. I would have loved to have known what would have come out of that. I wish we had a more compelling answer than like we had an alternative and we just went with that and we were all happy with it. But that is what happened. Next question by Nina Hart. What has been your biggest reward and challenge running your own company versus operating under a parent company? I don't know how to like quantify challenge. Like it's endless challenge.
It is, yeah.
Paying ourselves.
Yeah. I think the most rewarding thing has been seeing the community grow and how much support we have on a one-to-one basis where I don't think we saw that previously. I think that's the most rewarding thing to me is
Mhm.
seeing the people come out of the woodworks and kind of support us and stick with us as we kind of keep going. That's been really fantastic because,
Yeah.
you just sort of put it out there and you have no idea. I mean,
Mhm.
speaking for this and for 100% Eat, people go like, I love that podcast. And you go, right, but how much? Because we're about to find out. And I think we've seen a lot.
I think it's more than seeing it, right? It's the feeling it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely feel it. The challenge is there's no safety net. I mean, we've talked about that a lot, but the challenge is if we don't do it, it doesn't get done. And if you burn out, that's too bad. Like that is, we're running it like a sprint
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that it's really hard to do that. You have to be really mindful. I didn't take any time off really until this trip to Mexico since we launched.
Mhm.
And that's in 8 or 9 months of running.
Yep.
You're running a marathon and a sprint. And it's like, I have to be way more mindful of that for myself
Mhm.
of having to, I want to put everything that I have into this, but if I give everything that I have, then I don't have anything left to give later. And that's been a really hard thing where sometimes there's just like nothing to delegate to somebody when there's a bigger idea or when there's something we need to do. It's hard to get it done sometimes, or when it's the 5th most important thing on your list, but other people it's number 1 or number 2.
Sure.
I think that's the hardest thing.
That's very well said.
I just also remembered another thing that I loved since we started this company from the previous question.
Mhm.
I loved how such a dull recording as the Kickery Picker turned into something so off the rails, and how we were all
Yeah.
just all in on it. by the end
Like,
of it.
think about that. After we've sold 1,000 vinyls of the wheel, look back and you'll be like, Andrew threw out a rule change in part 2 of a video that turned into a record that people buy potentially down the road. Assuming we go that route, like that's fucking crazy. It was just a rule change.
It goes into the joy of like people being willing to just do stuff. Where on
Yeah.
the surface, it makes sense to do like a mid-season revisit and just sort of like recap. And then it became a thing of like, well, we need to solve this problem of some of us don't have kickers at this point. What's the mechanism behind it? And I went into that going like, I don't really know. Like I was messaging Eric being like, what makes sense? Like, how will this even work?
And then I told you that we shouldn't do the thing that you wanted to do, and you went, yeah, and then did it.
I don't remember that conversation going that way. But the point being that was a thing that I even went into going like, I don't really know how this is going to work. We're just going to figure it out. We're going to throw things out there. We'll see what happens. And it turned chaotic in an unbelievably fun way.
I do think genuinely the most challenging thing, at least on my end, is the fact that we started a company with 3 Americans, a Brit, and a Canadian, and it's very hard to pay ourselves, and it's very hard to get health care, and all of this fucking annoying behind the scenes grown-up shit is just constantly, it's like always in a state of almost done. And when you get past a step, there's another thing you have to do, or there's another series of forms that you have to fill out by the end of the year, or there's another. I feel like we must be embezzling money 80s style through the Cayman Islands. We have so many fucking companies we've had to create just so that we can all be in a business together. It's like, it's all very above the board and legal. We're not. But it's just like, it is so complicated to run the behind the scenes of running something as simple as 5 sub-intelligent people talking for an hour and 5 minutes about movies and food.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Eric posted a screenshot. Do you think a mechanic should exist in the Kicker Picker Repicker that allows someone to steal a player from someone else? I feel like if we do it again, we should add a wrinkle like that.
Right.
That was you very politely saying no.
Correct.
Yeah, I didn't interpret it that way at the time.
Great.
That was.
So you were saying for the next picker,
Right.
not
Yes,
for the
correct.
repicker.
Yes.
Oh.
Do we know who won that, by the way?
I need
Isn't
to
it
go in and
over?
check because I think there's an issue with the site. We have a member in our community that has like updated with the movie league and the kicker stuff, and they do such an amazing job. I need to confirm because that was such a chaotic recording. I think I have 7 kickers on the site, and I don't know if that's on purpose where everyone else is 6. Like I've been meaning to revisit that and then lock in.
Okay.
I mean, if we want to have a look at it right now, me and Andrew are tied.
There's
It
no
was
way.
a tie.
749 and 749.
Yeah, but Andrew has an extra character.
Yeah, I think I've got an extra kicker.
Yeah. So, just saying.
And do we know that do we know that Eric's count is even correct? We should probably go look into that.
What count? My count of what? This isn't my count. I didn't make this website.
Mine was wrong for 1 week, and the guy was like, "Oh, I had the aggregate thing was wrong," and he had to change it and fix it.
Why'd you say
could be-
Eric's count? What did
Because
Eric
yours
do?
could be wrong. Yours could, we don't know.
Oh,
Yours
I
isn't
thought you were
wrong.
saying like I was the one who was counting the points.
No, I'm saying
Like, what
the
fuck are
count
you
for your
talking
kicks.
about?
We don't know that your kicks are correct, is all I'm saying.
Well,
That's
and also,
true.
to be fair, Eric did botch a lot of the movie draft with his not assigning and not taking away points, and the total pot was wrong.
I don't remember that, but we'll
Yeah.
get to the bottom.
Well, I would have won
Great.
the movie draft or something.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm pretty sure,
I would have
yeah.
come in
I
first,
did-
man.
Yeah. hmm
But that's another thing I like about how we're always on board to just take the video in whatever direction it goes, and then we basically just hand it off to the audience, and members of the community build these websites.
Oh,
And,
it's
I
so
even saw
cool.
someone made a made a slider that they can slide from 1 to 10 about how the episode is going, and then it like graphs it all out. It's so funny.
That's amazing. I'll say just like one other quick thing about a joy of, it just being us as a small company. There's a meeting. I just put this together relatively recently as, now thinking about the past. I took a meeting and it made no sense for like why we had to have this meeting and the information that came from it. Like it had no value, but at the time, like you're just moving and it's like whatever that happened. And then realizing now that had to take place for somebody to show a boss that they did X thing. Like the fact that there's all this procedure and time wasted around just having to establish that work was done, as opposed to what could have just been like a 2-minute, we're doing this right. Yes. Just not having to deal with that. No time waste. And that way is so nice. So
Yeah.
rewarding.
Yeah. No, this could have been in emails in our company.
Yes. The last question from Misa Soup 247. Does Andrew still have his Get Out of Greg free card? Boy, do I. And man, am I thinking about using it on the podcast that we recorded yesterday. I was laying in bed last night going, do I use it? Because I have a feeling that I might need to.
So how does it work? You would apply it next episode and say it was for the previous episode?
Well, that's the thing. I will have already taken all of the abuse by the time it applies. I don't know if it counts.
What if you play it on our socials right before the episode comes out?
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I'm considering.
What if you just record a little intro that's right before the podcast that Nick can stick on the front of it? It's just like you saying, "Hey, this is Andrew. I just want to let you guys know before you listen to this, not that there's a reason to, but just, I just felt like using my Get Out of Greg free card this week and enjoy it.
I might. I'm going to put a little bit more thought into it, but I do feel it should work like Money in the Bank and wrestling, where you can just run and deposit it whenever you want to, essentially. Like that's how in my head I viewed the Get Out of Greg free card.
When did you actually get it? What was it for?
I don't remember, but it's been years, and I've been so scared to ever use it because I don't trust myself ultimately.
Is it just you that has the Get Out of Greg free card?
Yeah, I don't remember how I got it, but I think I'm the only one that has one.
Oh.
Interesting.
It was something I did. I think there
You
was
are
some.
the only one
Oh,
that
you know
has
what?
it, yeah.
I remember now. It was for getting the tuxedo. I was the only one that went to that, and I took care of it, and I was below
You're
the
right.
budget, and
Yeah.
Damn.
that's how I earned it.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
That's a good call.
We'll see if it gets played. People listening to this will know if there's no lead in to the next episode. And those are my questions. I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to wrap up on. I feel like we've covered quite a bit, but I don't have everyone's itinerary in front of me, so I don't know. Anything else you guys want to expand on in the sausage talk?
I think we wanted to pitch those 2 ideas to you
Yes.
too, if you don't mind.
Please.
I want to say we came up with like 5 new ideas in Mexico, one of which definitely can't be discussed right now.
Okay.
Then the one I pitched yesterday in podcast, which was the birth year movie draft.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, we came up with an idea for a predictions draft called Are We Nostradamus? Where we go through and we do it snake draft style as we do. Each person gets to pick a prediction of something they think is going to happen in the world in 2025. Then in January of 2026, we reconvene and do a video where we say, were we Nostradamus? And then we find out how many of our predictions come true. And it could be anything, like,
Okay.
I think Gavin or Nick said John Mulaney dies.
Oh my God.
But it could also be like I said a cruise ship crashes. Like it could be a good thing too.
I love this.
Maybe somebody undies and then everybody's happy. But yeah, we just come up with our predictions or a few extras because we may overlap, and then we put it out in the universe and we see how prescient we are.
I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to film that.
If anyone gets any right, I mean, it'd be insane.
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? Like, imagine that we do pick John Mulaney dies and then John Mulaney dies. Like, that's
Dude.
crazy.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
If we get anything right, we get to release a shirt that said, "Yep, we're Nostradamus."
Okay. And who's the shirt? And who's the shirt?
It's for us. We'll buy it.
Oh, okay.
We'll buy it.
It's
I
like
think
a staff
Jeff
shirt.
just really wants a shirt that says, "Yep, I'm Nostradamus."
What if the winner of if you get something right, you get a Greg card?
Oh, I like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's a good idea.
Very
Maybe there could be a
interesting.
whole structure, kind of like. Did you guys ever watch the Bozo the Clown show when you
No.
were a kid?
Yes.
Well, Eric's going to know this then. I actually did a things to do in Saints Row the Third based off of it. But they would put a bunch of buckets out in a row, 1 to 5, and there was a prize in each bucket. And then a kid would get a ping pong ball. And if he could throw it in the first one, then he got a shot at the second. And then if he got to the third, he had a shot at the third. So maybe there's like, if you get one prediction correct, you get a Get Out of Greg free card. And if you get 2, there's like an even better gift. Or reward, and 3 and 4 and 5, and like 5 would be
Okay.
insane, or 4 I think would be max.
Maybe if you get 2, you get the Greg card, but if you get 1, you just get like a shot in the dark of a Greg.
You have an opportunity to roll a sheer shot in the dark tide. There's a 25% chance of getting
I am so on board with all of us having a shot in the Greg Dark card for any. Oh, and it has to be used like Survivor, where you get 1 and you have to pull it, and there's a 1 in
exactly.
7. And if you're right, then you've won the argument.
Yeah, and everyone has to back down.
Yeah, everyone has to just put their
And
weapons
even
down.
even the whole community has to be like, yeah, he was right.
Yeah, everybody has. Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. Oh, that would be so infuriating for somebody. I'm just to use it efficiently. Oh, that would be so frustrating potentially.
It's like those fucking State Farm commercials. I think they're State Farm, or the couple is arguing and then one of them pulls out a challenge flag and throws it down, and then they bring out the video unit and they get to watch the conversation that just happened to see if the husband said the thing or not.
Mhm.
Oh, that's fucking great.
What I'm really excited about with Are We Nostradamus is we're at that time of year where very specific podcasts do their predictions going into the next year and recap what they made before. Like I listened to a boxing podcast and I just listened to an episode of this. That is such a specific field. And I would say 80% of their predictions were wrong. So the premise of it just being any topic, anything is going to be so insane.
That's what was so funny to me when Jeff was pitching it, because I was thinking like, oh, you know, there could be like a war or like a natural disaster or like maybe a volcano goes off. And then he was like, what if a cruise ship crashed?
Anything.
It's like so specific.
I like it.
I was looking at cruise ships on the horizon at night from our balcony. You could see the lit up cruise ships in the distance, and I was thinking, man, this thing's got to crash sometime, right? Hard to turn one of those around on a dime, you know?
Oh, for sure. And what was the other idea?
Oh, the other idea is, Eric will probably have to jump in to help, but we it's a couple of ideas that kind of morphed into one. We're going to call this the Wheel of Decades.
Okay.
And we create a wheel. And on the wheel, the options are 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. And then we spin the wheel. And whatever decade we land on, let's say we land on the 80s, we all then do our own research. We look, we Google, and we find all of the TV shows from the 80s that sound interesting that we've never seen. It's important that you've never seen it. And then we compile a list and we look at the group together, and then we find the show that none of us have ever seen, like the $6 Million Man. Nobody ever watched it. Or maybe I think the idea Eric used was Renegade, right? The Lorenzo Lamas show. Or Pacific Blue, which is a show I'd never heard of that then he showed me. It's like cops on fucking scooters or something.
It's like Baywatch on bikes.
Yeah, it's like Baywatch on bikes. And then we identify and then we pick the show, right? And then we become the biggest fans in the world of that show. And we all get together and we watch it together. And we watch an entire season together. And then we record like watch along style content of it. And then we release it once a week or whatever for the audience. And then they can go watch it along with us, essentially. And it's just like us consuming an entire run of a show that none of us have ever seen before. And we get to experience it all together for the first time.
I love it.
And we do just great watch-along content.
I think that's so much fun.
The thing that I really like is us spinning the wheel and then at the same time, like everyone independently looking up like shows from that decade, but we are all still recording together. So then we're just putting them onto a sheet or whatever, and then we're kind of like whittling down, like as we go, like, oh yeah, this or that, we should listen to this or we should watch that or whatever it is. It's great. I think that would be great Patreon stuff, like putting that on Patreon, like these watch-alongs or whatever, so everyone can watch with us if they want to. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
And then it has a beginning and an end. You know, it's a self-contained thing. It makes sense for it to end because it's an 8-episode season or a 19-episode season or whatever. So it's an additive thing that we throw up, but because it begins with an end in sight, I don't think people would be upset when it's over, you know? It was just an extra thing that we got, and then we can always do another one down the road, or if we like it enough, we can go on to season 2, or we can spin the wheel again, you know? And it just becomes a way for us to hang out in the evening and watch something together in a fun way and make the kind of content that we love to make, because we all love to do the watch-along stuff or the commentary stuff on movies, and also in a structured way that is something we can give to the audience. Completely agree.
Yeah, I think that's so much fun. I'd love to do that.
Gavin, what do you think of the Wheel of Decades?
Love it. I'm in.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're going to do it.
I said, hell yeah.
All right. I think those were the only things we wanted to pitch.
Yeah.
I'm excited. What a fun sausage talk.
That's how some of the sausage was made.
That is.
Wow.
Look at that.
Nom nom.
I'm good. Thanks. You can nom it, I guess.
Nick, you want to take us out on the nom nom?
Do you think if a sausage was long enough, could if Eric chugged ketchup, right?
What?
And then I took a really long dog, put it all the way down to the stomach, could I dip it in ketchup and pull it back out?
In Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why was that important to specify, Nick, that it was in me?
Well, you're shorter than us.
Oh yeah. It's the shortest distance to travel.
Yeah.
What if I was mostly back like Andrew, though?
Well, then no.
What if one person was ketchup and the other was mustard?
Ugh. And then
Who's
you're
hot dog?
eating this?
No,
You
I
got
don't want
mad when I showed the cake that was kind of wet.
Yeah, why did you turn into Gigi Allen all of a sudden?
Good question. Well, thanks for listening to Sausage Talk. This is, I think this has been insightful. This was a good one. I thought that there was a lot here, a lot going on, and a lot to discuss. If we missed anything, become a Falcon and ask a question, and then we can cover it on the next one, I guess. Guys, anything that we want to leave everyone with as we kind of like wrap this up?
Thank you so much for supporting us and allowing us to continue to do this.
Thank you.
I like your Q&A idea as well. I think that should be the next one.
The what?
Andrew was saying do a dedicated Q&A.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Answering the questions is a lot of fun, and the questions are always super interesting, and they think to ask things we don't think to talk about naturally, which I appreciate.
That's awesome.
So we should definitely do that.
Sounds like a plan. But until then, thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye now.
Bye.